Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Amber Keys. I am the Business Services Specialist here at Michigan Works Southeast. I support the development, registration, and management of apprenticeships. And today I'm here to talk to you about future-proofing your business. We're going to learn about leveraging registered apprenticeships to meet evolving work demands and to build a skilled workforce. So let's get into it. So the learning objectives today, we're going to discuss what apprenticeship is, what it isn't, maybe some of the components to apprenticeship, and what are the benefits to you, to your business or organization with a registered apprenticeship. I'm going to answer the question of what you need to have in place to start an apprenticeship. And then we're going to close out with resources and support that are available to help you to start an apprenticeship program. So first of all, we're going to answer that question. What is apprenticeship? So very often when we think of apprenticeship, I think what comes to mind are, folks who are in hard hats, carpenters, millwrights, those sorts of things. We're thinking in terms of skilled trades. And I am here to tell you that apprenticeship is so much more, especially here in 2024. So bare bones, though, an apprenticeship is a contract between an employer and employee that is providing a pathway to advance skills and a nationally recognized credential. So really, in any industry, we can create that contract, right? We can create a plan to move someone from an entry level to a management level. We can build that ladder with various apprenticeships, and we can use apprenticeships in almost every single industry. So the structure includes on-the-job learning as well as related training and instruction. What that means is that an apprentice is learning from a mentor on the job and also is taking some sort of class or certification outside of work. With an apprenticeship, mentorship really is that key component. It's not just learning from someone else who does the job, it's learning from someone who has mastered the role, learning from someone who can share the subtle nuances of the role. And then that related training instruction, the apprentice can bring into their on-the-job learning to discuss with the mentor. So why apprenticeship as a talent pipeline solution? What we know right now is that baby boomers are leaving the workforce in droves, and Gen Z that's coming up into the workforce, there are simply not enough humans to replace the folks who are leaving. We also know that boomers are holding high-level management, C-suite level roles, right? So there's a lot of industry-specific knowledge that exists within the aging workforce. So those in-demand industries they need talent now. We cannot afford to wait for someone to go get a bachelor's, to go get that associate's. We need folks learning on the job right now, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to run into a very significant crisis in terms of workforce. So we want to protect our industries and organizations, right? We want to make sure that that knowledge transfer happens from those mentor level folks. We want to have a plan for when these folks leave. So if you have someone who's in a high management role, or you have someone in a C-suite between now and the next 5 years, you could build someone up through an apprenticeship to take that person's role. What's really great about apprenticeship as well is that it gives you the opportunity to really train folks in the way that you want them to be trained. It also is a really great way to develop talent from within. We'll talk a little bit more about apprenticeship as a retention strategy a little bit later, but it's a great way to take that fresh young talent and to really give them that pathway, and to give them your unique skills, your unique way of doing business. And lastly, apprenticeship has a really profound ripple effect that provides a significant return on investment not just to the employer, but also to the employee and to the local economy as well. So now we're going to answer the question, if, is apprenticeship right for you? So my questions would be, are you struggling to find and retain skilled talent? What we're hearing over and over again from our businesses here at Michigan Works Southeast, it's that it's very, very hard to find the right skills that they need to fill the roles. It's even harder to retain that skilled talent once you have them on board. So apprenticeship is this really wonderful way, again, to create that pipeline, to create the skilled workforce that you need, and also retain that skilled workforce. If you're in what we call an in-demand industry. So again, I know that we often think of skilled trades, we think of construction, we think of the UAW, right? We think of very specific industries, but the in-demand industries are technology, healthcare, green energy, and advanced manufacturing. These are the industries that need people right now. We cannot afford to wait again for that workforce to get a bachelor's, a master's, or other certification before joining the workforce and then learning, right, what it's like to do business with your company or organization. And as we talked on the last slide, right, do you have an aging workforce, particularly in those critical leadership and management roles? So the industries that are apprenticeable, I've hinted at this a bit, but we have our common industries. These have always been around since the beginning of apprenticeships, since before there were registered apprenticeships. The origin of work, right? It was that you got a job and you learned from someone how to do that job. So we've seen the construction trades, manufacturing, the UAW, IBEW. We've seen this work over and over and over again. The commonly thought of industries, the reason they are the commonly thought of ones is because they've continued to do it. And the reason they continue to do it is because it really works. The high demand industries, we've got healthcare. So something that, here at Michigan Works as an intermediary, we are really looking at those high demand industries. Sometimes they call them non-traditional apprenticeships. We're looking in terms of non-traditional apprenticeships. We're looking at professional apprenticeships. So these are in healthcare. Just to give an example, we have an LPN program where folks who are certified as CNAs can become a licensed practical nurse. And then once they complete that apprenticeship, they're going to turn around and do an RN. We have things like phlebotomy, medical assisting, those entry levels where you can take phlebotomy, become a medical assistant, become an LPN. It's really about creating those pathways. In IT and cybersecurity, we have right now an employer, their focus is they're bringing people in as customer service reps initially, and they are training them in IT and cybersecurity for 1 year. And when they complete, then they move up into an actual professional IT role. When we look at green energy and autonomous vehicles or green vehicles, these again are up and coming industries. They're highly specialized. There's a lot to learn there. And there's going to be a lot of on-the-job learning that's going to need to take place. Other professional services, we have insurance sales, we have human resource administrators, I have social work apprenticeships. So if you are wondering, is my industry apprenticeable, I can say with 100% certainty that yes, it is. We are adding new occupations every single day. So what can apprenticeship do for your organization? Apprenticeship really develops an innovative talent pipeline solution. It's going to provide that significant return on investment. So what I mean is that we know right now that the way that we've traditionally run the workforce in terms of get the skill, apply for the job, work for the employer is simply not sustainable for the changing needs and demands of the workforce. So being creative in terms of bringing folks in or, hiring from within into an apprenticeship it's going to provide that return on investment. And that return on investment isn't just financial. It's retention. It's the culture of the organization. It's going to impact your recruitment, right? Folks want to work for an employer that's invested in their career trajectory, right? So apprenticeship is going to create a career pathway with concrete skill development for employees. That's something that's very, very appealing. What we've seen with employers that we're working with currently is as soon as they start an apprenticeship program and they select the first 1 or 2 people for the first year, they now are having waiting list. Next year, they might do 4. The following year, they could do 8, right? Where year over year, every apprentice goes through and then turns around and teaches the next round. So it's a great pathway with concrete skill development, great training. It's going to provide career opportunities for a more diverse workforce. Again, with what we would consider the traditional way of go to school, apply, and get the job, there are so many folks who aren't able to afford going to school, or maybe they don't have the time to go to school full time because they have family, they have children they're taking care of, right? So with apprenticeship, there is that on the job learning, and then the training and instruction is maybe 1 or 2 courses a semester, right? So it's allowing them to have that opportunity to have their education paid for and to walk out with that skill. It's also going to increase the productivity and profitability of your business. When you're able to train your employees to do it your way or the way of your organization or your business, it's going to be more efficient. If everyone knows exactly what they need to do and how to do it in the correct way, it's going to increase that output, right? Which then increases your profitability as a business. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to foster that culture of continuous growth, innovation, and employee engagement. And as a former human resource professional myself, right, we know that culture is so important in terms of retention or attracting the right talent. So really focusing on apprenticeship is going to establish you as an industry leader who's forward thinking and who's preparing, right, for the future of work. So what are the components of registered apprenticeship? The first few things we already talked about, which is the employers. Obviously, we need an employer for an apprenticeship. You need an apprentice, which is an employee, and then you need a mentor. That mentorship is so important. A mentor doesn't have to be someone who has some sort of special certificate or degree or training license. It's really just someone who's been doing the job long enough to have developed mastery of the role within your business or organization. Other components are going to be that on-the-job learning plus that training with an education provider, the training and instruction. It's going to get them an industry recognized certificate at the very end. The reason we really like that, it is also a national credential. So what's great in terms of the certificate of completion is that if anything should happen, say an apprentice's spouse moves to North Carolina or Oklahoma, then that employee can go to that state and start where they are. They won't have to recertify. They won't have to start from ground zero. So it's a really, really important piece in terms of the nationally and industry recognized certificate. The other piece that makes an apprenticeship is that wage progression. We are providing skills. We're providing a pathway to either a new role, a new certificate, right? So we want to see that wage progression. So within an apprenticeship, you have a starting wage and an ending wage, and then at least one bump in pay somewhere in between. We have some employers who if they have a 4-year program, they might do 10 small raises. If it's a 1-year program, they might just do the 1. So all of that is up to you to decide when you're building your apprenticeship, but that is a critical component that we do need within the apprenticeship. So now I'm going to talk about the Department of Labor registration and approval pieces. So this is the actual physical documents that need to be completed to register an apprenticeship. This is usually where most employers turn around and go home, right? It's a lot of work. It's very confusing. There really isn't training about how to do this appropriately. Creating your own work process schedule can be really overwhelming. So that's where we here at Michigan Works Southeast are going to come in. So we have a set of standards that all of our employers sign under. So we have approved standards that they provide for the bare minimum in terms of legal requirements. So maybe it's a GED or a minimum age of 16. We're going to provide for all of that. We're going to provide the equal opportunity statement, affirmative action statements, right? We're going to make sure our standards are already approved by the Department of Labor. So if you work with us, you don't have to create your own standards and work with a legal department and then go back and forth with the Department of Labor to get those standards. You're just going to sign on under ours, which then allows us to really get to the important work, which is that apprenticeship agreement. An apprenticeship agreement has 3 parts, and there's an Appendix A, an Appendix B, and an Appendix D. So again, if we think of this in terms of a contract, right, the standards set the minimum. So it says you can't hire someone who's 14 years old to become an LPN, for example. But then we're going to look at the apprenticeship agreement. So Appendix A is where we outline the training plan, right? So how long is the program? What are they going to learn? How long is it going to take them to learn it on the job? And then what are the courses or certifications they're going to get outside of the workplace in the time of that apprenticeship, right? So that's Appendix A. That's your work process is what we call it. It just outlines for yourself and for the apprentice, this is where we're going and this is how we're going to get there. The Appendix B is where the apprentice signs on and agrees to the apprenticeship. And then the Appendix D is where you sign on as an employer under our standards to fulfill everything that's been laid out. Now, in your Appendix D, what's great is that we can oftentimes provide, we have work process schedules for just about if an apprenticeship is registered with the Department of Labor, we can always find a sample and get that to you. So we're going to work off of a sample and you can customize that. So you have 25%. You can take things out, you can add things in that are more relevant, more unique to your organization. So it's just those 3 documents. The great thing, again, is that we here at Michigan Works, we have all the tools, we have the resources, we have the relationship with the Department of Labor. I have been able to complete an apprenticeship in as little as an afternoon. So we really are here. We want to support you. We want to help you get that registration completed. So who benefits from registered apprenticeships? Obviously, right, we have the employee or apprentice who's going to benefit. So as I mentioned, they're going to earn income starting on day 1. They're not going to be going into debt, right? They don't have to take time off work to go to school to get a certification. So financially, it's a huge advantage for the apprentice. It's providing them that career advancement that they might not otherwise have access to. It's giving them concrete skills and credentials that they can use anywhere, right? It's giving them wage increases as their skills increase. And it's going to remove any barriers, right, to financial barriers to education, or, barriers to career advancement that we see so many folks who would love to progress, but really are not able to progress. In addition to the myriad benefits to employees and apprentices when it comes to registered apprenticeship, obviously the employer is going to have quite a few as well. One of the most important that we always like to highlight is the high return on investment. So an apprenticeship really is a significant investment of time, of energy, of money for the employer. So we've got, money being spent on tuition, but we've got time spent with the mentor, right? The mentor's hours are impacted. Ultimately, the apprentice's hours are impacted during that training time. And so there's a lot that is invested, and it can feel really overwhelming. The really great thing about registered apprenticeship is that we do have the data to support the return on investment. So for every dollar that an employer invests into an apprentice, they receive on average $1.48 as a return on investment. So that is very, very significant. And we do talk about apprenticeship as an investment in your business, right? The payoff doesn't come tomorrow, but over time, that return on investment can be really, really significant. In addition to that $1.48 return on investment, you are going to see that increased productivity, which again lends itself to that ROI. When you have an apprentice that you are training in exactly the way that you need them to do the work for your business, then they're going to be more productive. They're going to be able to meet those goals that are set internally because they're being trained exactly as you need them to be trained today. And they don't need to take the time to come up to speed with how you do it at your company. They're already going to have that. Decreased turnover is also, again, lends itself toward that return on investment. So what we do know, right? The average apprenticeship is anywhere between 1 and 6 years. So a lot of folks come to apprenticeship because they do see a revolving door on some of their more entry-level positions and they want to create a career pathway. So what we're seeing is that there is an over 90% retention rate for an apprenticeship through the life of the apprenticeship. So what that means is that if you have an apprentice who enters into a 4-year apprenticeship, there is a 90% chance they will still be with your company 4 years from now. So rather than seeing people come in, leave in 3 months, 9 months, right? Apprenticeship really is a great way to decrease turnover or increase that retention, which again is going to, save time, energy, and money. So decreased turnover is huge, increased retention, that increased productivity, training people the way you want them to be trained, making sure they have the skills that you need, making sure they have the knowledge they need from your mentors and your leadership. All of that leads to increased efficiency with work, increased productivity. We're not having to do a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of problem solving that you see, say, in the first 2 years of taking on a new role because there is that mentor right there. So again, that's that transfer of the workplace specific wisdom. We're getting that from folks who are going out into the new generations. Apprenticeships, I know I've already said this several times, but it does create a more diverse workforce. So if folks who traditionally haven't had access to leadership roles or given leadership roles, we're seeing new innovations, new ideas, new perspectives coming into the workforce. And that diversity is only going to benefit your business long term. And then finally, a benefit for you, the employer, is that here at Michigan Works, we do have grant dollars that are available to subsidize the costs. So a lot of folks know us for Going Pro dollars. We have apprenticeship specific grants. In some instances, we're able to completely reimburse, say, the cost of the education and training for an apprentice to the employer. So there are dollars available to support you in that process. Really, we just want to make it as easy as possible for you. We want to create the opportunities here at Michigan Works Southeast for it to be an easy yes, because we know that if we get those apprenticeships registered, you're going to be more successful. And then finally, it's really important to me to stress that community and economic value. So when our workforce has increased skills and increased wages, they're going to thrive, right? When our workforce thrives, they're able to invest their dollars, they're able to take better care of their children, of their families. They're going out into the local community to eat at the restaurants, to shop at the mom and pop shops, right? So when we choose apprenticeship, the benefits are going to ripple out into our local community. And then as an employer, right, obviously, if your employees are skilled, if they're productive, if they're efficient, if they're staying, right, if they're not leaving the company and you don't have to retrain someone every 2 years, then your business is going to thrive, right? Which again, when our businesses thrive, there's more opportunities created in the community. It creates a thriving community. So I cannot stress this piece of it enough, that it's so important. Apprenticeship is just a really great way to not only impact your business or impact your employees, but really to ripple out into our local communities. So what resources are available to you? When it comes to developing your registered apprenticeship, there's 4 things that we would need from you here at Michigan Works Southeast. So you're going to want to identify what your need is. So are you needing succession planning? Do you know that someone's retiring in the next 2 years? Do you know someone has 5 years, or is there someone who could leave at any minute, right? Is it succession planning? Is there, we see a lot with entry-level positions. There's a lot of churning just in those entry-level positions. You can't get a customer service rep in and keep them. That's where we have the employer who has that tech-based apprenticeship. They come in as a customer service rep, but they're offered a career in tech from that point, right? So is there a role that you see a lot of turnover in that you think you could develop into something higher up in the organization? An accounting professional, a human resource professional? Is there an opportunity that you could create to help with turnover? Or even looking at the future, right? Do you know the shifting needs of your business, right? That you're going to need to get those skills, right? So your job is going to be to identify the need. We're happy to consult and support you in identifying the need. And then, today, hopefully you understand the basics of what an apprenticeship is going to entail, what that process looks like, who you can reach out to for help, right? Understanding the basics of what it is that you need. Then we're going to help you develop that program. Again, that's where we're going to bring in that sample Appendix A for you. We're going to build off of that. We're going to customize that. We're going to get your apprentices registered. We're going to get you registered with the Department of Labor. And then from there, there's so many opportunities to maintain and grow. So there's an employer that I'm working with. It's all medical and professional services. They have had success in one area, and they are now looking at 8 different occupations in 8 different departments. So accounting, again, human resources, social work, medical assisting, right? So we're looking at really how do we grow this program? I have an insurance agency. They're doing an insurance salesperson. Now they're doing an HR admin, right? So how can we continue to utilize apprenticeship to meet the needs and demands of your business? So if you need help, again, my name is Amber Keys. I'm the business services specialist here at Michigan Works Southeast. You can email me. My email is on the screen. We can also provide, right, that intermediary services. It's going to save you countless hours, right? Headaches, energy, manpower, in developing and registering and managing that apprenticeship. So after we register that apprenticeship, the cool thing about our intermediary services is that we also help you keep track of those hours. We help make sure that your apprenticeship stays on track so that your folks complete, right? We're going to be looking out for if someone falls behind in their training or if someone falls behind in their hours. We're going to be collaborating and working together with you to make sure that that apprentice gets through the program. Sometimes that also includes, here again at Michigan Works Southeast, we do have supportive services available to folks who qualify. So we have a lot of resources to really help remove barriers and help those apprentices not just start the apprenticeship, but finish it. And then I mentioned this a little bit, but we also do provide employers the opportunity to apply for many, many grants on our business services team. So again, that we're looking at Going Pro. We have on-the-job training dollars that are available. We have federal and state dollars. We also have specialized funding specifically for a registered apprenticeship, right? So we are here to help subsidize that cost of running the program, paying for that training and instruction. Thank you so much for your time today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.